Hi, welcome to Fantasy Booms and Busts for Week 3. My name's CJ Gulino.
And I'm Sam Bloomquist. Let's get into it, CJ.
Sam, for this week, I really like quarterback Jay Cutler from the Chicago Bears. The reason I like Jay Cutler, solely because he's playing the New York Jets. And although they do have a tough defense, they have a very weak secondary, and I think Jay Cutler could really poke some holes in that secondary.
I agree with you, CJ. Their secondary has been weak ever since the preseason when they lost Dex McDougal and D. Milner, both the injuries in the same practice. And their secondary just hasn't been the same ever since that fateful day. And last week, Aaron Rodgers picked apart their defense, and he threw the ball all over the place. Jay Cutler's been hitting Alshon Jeffrey and Brandon Marshall consistently, and I believe that's a very good pick.
Right. For the first half of that game, I was really impressed with how they shut down Aaron Rodgers, really. But after seeing what he did throughout that second half and that comeback by Green Bay, I'm just not confident that they could stop Jay Cutler this week.
If you are also quarterback needy, and someone you might be able to pick up off the waiver wire is Ryan Fitzpatrick. Ryan Fitzpatrick is playing the New York Giants, which has a defense that is struggling. And he also has the weapons of Andre Johnson, DeAndre Hopkins, and he can even throw it to Arian Foster if he wants to. And the Houston Texans are very hot this season. They're off to a 2-0 start, and they seem to be a pretty dominant football team this year, CJ.
Well, I agree with you 100%, Sam. You know how I feel about the Texans. They're my squad, and Ryan Fitzpatrick has looked very impressive in the first 2 weeks. I had a lot of doubts from Ryan Fitzpatrick. But like you said, DeAndre Hopkins has been putting in a couple big plays a game, nothing crazy, and Andre Johnson's being the receiver that everyone knows he can be. With Arian Foster healthy, I think their offense is one to be reckoned with. For me, I like Stephen Ridley this week. The Pats did have a problem running the ball against the Dolphins in Week 1, and it looked like Ridley was actually going to get benched if there was one more fumble for Shane Vereen. But Ridley really put up big numbers in Week 2 with over 100 rushing yards and a touchdown. And let's be honest, the Pats will most likely demolish the Oakland Raiders, and Stephen Ridley looks like the goal line back for the Pats, so I think that's a good pick.
Yes, CJ, I believe Stephon Ridley is a great pick for this week because the Patriots are always just a dominant force, and they're playing the Oakland Raiders, which, like you said, is not the best team that will be able to put up with the Patriots' run game. Somebody else you might want to start this week if you need a running back would be Bobby Rainey. Bobby Rainey is the leading rusher for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Doug Martin's health has been an issue recently. And even though he will probably be playing during the game, Bobby Rainey will still get a lot of the touches. And Bobby Rainey is not someone that the Bucs are going to keep on their bench.
Yeah, that's an interesting pick, Sam. I didn't really think about Bobby Rainey because, like you said, Doug Martin's always that number one. But with health issues, that's a very good pick. I think that could work out real well for fantasy owners. Someone who I really don't like this week is the Washington D. If you were thinking about starting the Washington D, I advise you not to do so this week, facing the powerful 2-0 Philadelphia Eagles. LaShawn McCoy has been firing on all cylinders in the run game. Nick Foles looks great, passing for over 300 yards in both of his first games. I just don't think that weak defense is going to be able to stop either of those.
Yeah, Philadelphia will control the ball for most of that game, especially with their dominant offense, and they have a great defense, which will take the ball away from Washington Redskins as they're still sort of figuring out their quarterback situation. And as you know, RG3 went down last week, so Kirk Cousins has still got to get adjusted to the offense. Somebody else that you should not start next week is Greg Jennings as he plays the New Orleans Saints. Greg Jennings is the top receiver in Minnesota, but the New Orleans Saints have something to prove. They're an 0-2 team, and when Drew Brees is an 0-2 team, he's going to want to try and get his first win. He's going to be slinging the ball all over the place, and they need to cover Greg Jennings because Greg Jennings is Minnesota's number one receiver. So I just can't see Greg Jennings having a good week this week because New Orleans Saints are going to control the football. They're going to want to start hogging the ball because their defense just isn't up to snuff.
I agree with you. I don't think Greg Jennings is going to have a good week either. I think the main reason, like you said, is New Orleans is a very underrated defense. They have a very powerful secondary that don't really get a lot of credit throughout the league. And Greg Jennings is that number one target. So I think they're going to shut him down with no problem, and New Orleans looks to get their first win this week. That about wraps it up for Fantasy Booms and Buffs for Week 3. We'll see you next week.